Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about Ruby Storm as a deck as a whole. We're going to talk about card choices in the deck, the overall strategy of the deck, and how to play the deck. Let's jump into it.
The storm is insane outside. Wait, is it raining rubies?
So Ruby Storm is one of the premier combo decks in Modern. What this deck is effectively attempting to do is getting one of these cost reducers on the battlefield, either Ruby Medallion, Ral Monsoon Mage, or a leveled up Artist Talent. So Ruby Medallion is a 2-mana artifact. Red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Ral Monsoon Mage has a little bit more text, but instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, it deals 1 damage to you. If you win the flip, you may exile Ral. If you do, return to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. And then it transforms into a Planeswalker that enters with an additional loyalty counter on him for each instant sorcery you've cast this turn. So it rewards you for storming. Plus 1 until your next turn. Instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so it can do the same thing as the front side. It's -2 as Ral deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Draw a card if you control a blue permanent other than Ral, and it's -8 is exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant sorcery spells from among them this turn without paying their mana cost. So essentially the way you play Ral is on the front side, it's just a Ruby Medallion as you're storming. And then once you've cast 6 other instant sorceries, you want to flip Ral. Otherwise, you're saying no to flipping Ral, because once you've cast 6 other, it can flip and then you can ultimate it. And then it's like almost impossible for you to fizzle out your storm. And then Artist Talent, 2-mana enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. You can pay 3 mana to level Artist Talent up to level 2 to have non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, which means once it's leveled up, it does effectively the same thing as these guys. And then you can pay 3 more mana to level it up to level 3. It says if a source you control will deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. Sometimes this is relevant if you're low on cards and are storming and need to Grape Shot but have the mana, but rarely you're going to level it up to level 3. But between these 10 cards, you're reducing the cost of your instants and sorceries, which means once you have one of these on the battlefield, you get to play your rituals. So we have Desperate Ritual, Pyretic Ritual, and Manamorphose. All do really similar things in the deck. Desperate Ritual, pay 2 mana, get 3 mana. Pyretic Ritual, pay 2 mana, get 3 mana. Manamorphose, pay 2 mana, draw a card, get 2 mana. When you have one of these cost reducers on the battlefield, then you profit 2 mana from Desperate Ritual because you're paying 1 mana, getting 3. You get 2 from Pyretic Ritual because you're paying 1 mana, getting 3. And you profit 1 mana from Manamorphose because you're paying 1 mana and drawing a card and getting 2 mana. So this allows you to profit a ridiculous amount of mana while you have these on the battlefield, so you can cast these spells to draw more cards to play more rituals for really, really cheap. Reckless Impulse, pay 2 mana, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Ren's Resolved is literally the same thing. And then Glimpse the Impossible is a 3-mana sorcery, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. At the beginning of the next end step, if any of those cards remain exiled, put them into the graveyard, then create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token for each card put into your graveyard this way. Those tokens have sacrificed this token, add a colorless. So these are called impulse effects. So what they do is they get exiled, and then you're not necessarily drawing them, but you can cast them once they're exiled. And again, if these cost reducers are on the battlefield, this costs 1 mana, this costs 1 mana, this costs 2 mana. And if you have a second cost reducer, it costs 1 mana, which is a little rare, but it can happen. So the idea is you're making a ton of mana, you're churning through your deck, you're casting a ridiculous amount of spells. And then once you've kind of burnt out, but you'll end up with a bunch of extra mana, you cast Pass in Flames. Pass in Flames is a 4-mana sorcery. Each instant sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost, and it itself has flashback for 5 mana. Flashback means you can cast it from your graveyard for its mana cost, or its reduced mana cost if you still have these on the battlefield. And so you get to do it all again because everything was in your graveyard. And so at this point, you've churned through most of your deck. If you had Ral on the battlefield, you're able to flip Ral and immediately ultimate it to continue churning through your deck. And you're going to do all of this until you eventually hit Grape Shot. Grape Shot is a 2-mana sorcery, deals 1 damage to any target, and it has Storm, which means when you cast a spell, you get to copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. So if you've cast 19 spells before Grape Shot and then cast Grape Shot, it'll be copied 19 times. That's 20 damage. That's enough to win. So the idea is casting that many spells using the profitable mana and churning through our decks to cast Grape Shot. Now, Grape Shot's a 1 of in our deck. If we're unable to hit it, we also have Wish, which is a 3-mana sorcery. You may play a card you own from outside the game this turn. In competitive Magic, this just means your sideboard. And we have a bunch of stuff in our sideboard we can use for Wish. So Wish can be a Pass in Flames. So we're playing a Pass in Flames in our board, so we can Wish for a Pass in Flames. So we're essentially playing 5, so we're making sure we hit Pass in Flames. It can wipe the board with Brotherhood's End, which is really nice. You can play a bunch of rituals and then lead with Wish and Orm's Chant to make sure your stuff can't be countered. You can do the mid-range plan, play Flage and grab it with Wish. But if you're doing your primary game plan and comboing, you can grab that Grape Shot in your board and just do it from your board. Or if that's not necessarily going to kill and you need to kill over the course of a few turns, maybe you play Empty the Warrens. Empty the Warrens is a 4-mana sorcery. Create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens and you can storm it. So for every spell you've cast, you create 2 goblins, which is kind of silly. So you get to Toolbox with Wish, normally just grabbing Grape Shot or Pass in Flames to continue the combo or kill. I was playing Valakut Awakening. Valakut Awakening is a red land on the other side that just enters tapped, so we get to kind of play less lands. And you can pay 3 mana to put any number of cards in your hand to the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards +1. While you're storming, it's actually kind of nice to just like kind of refresh all of the like lands that end up in your hand. And then we're playing Strike It Rich. It's a 1-mana card that replaces itself. Create a treasure token, has flashback for 3 mana. That treasure token's kind of like ramping our mana for future turns, which is really nice as well. As far as the lands, there's not a lot to look at. Playing a Gemstone Caverns, which is kind of cool. If it's in your opening hand and you're not the starting player, you may begin the game with a Gemstone counter on the battlefield, the luck counter on it. If you do, exile a card from your hand. And you can pay and add a colorless mana. If Gemstone has a luck counter on it, instead add 1 mana of any color. So this allows us to kind of ramp our mana as well to be able to combo even earlier. With Gemstone Caverns, this actually gives us deck a turn 1 kill, which is ridiculous. Where you do a ritual for 3 mana, spend 2 mana on a cost reducer, and then continue ritualing because you have a mana left over, which is really silly. That being said, as far as the sideboard goes, it is a Wish board. So there are some things that you rarely or never bring in, just to be clear about that. We're playing Orm's Chant. Orm's Chant is a 1-mana instant with Kicker for 1 white. The target player can't cast spells this turn. If the spell is kicked, creatures can't attack this turn. So Orm's Chant's really good because you can Wish for it, but it's really good against counter magic decks, or if you're afraid of like being consigned or something like that. Often Storm players will like Wish for an Orm's Chant or just play an Orm's Chant so you can't counter that final Storm. In addition to that, Orm's Chant is very, very good against certain decks. Like the Mirror Match is very good because it can stop them from storming. It's instant speed. You can kick it and like stop Amulet Titan from comboing, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Silence is kind of just another Orm's Chant, except it doesn't do the kicker thing. Your opponent can't cast spells this turn for instant speed. Playing for Prismatic Ending. Prismatic Ending is X and white with Converge. Exile target non-land permanent if mana value is less than or equal to the number of colors of mana spent to cast this spell. Very good against creatures. Again, you can Wish for it. It's good against hate for us because there are some pieces of hate that are really, really annoying, like Deafening Silence or Rest in Peace or things like that. Prismatic Ending is our kind of cover-all answer to it. That, again, we can Wish for. Grape Shot, we're rarely ever bringing in. We're just kind of making sure we can Wish for Grape Shot in case it's just a board wipe for artifacts and creatures that we can Wish for, which is really nice. Empty the Warren similarly. Pass in Flames, we leave in our sideboard, so Wishes can always grab it. And then we're playing 2 Flage. Flage is a 3-mana legendary. When it enters, sacrifice it unless it escaped. And whenever Flage enters or attacks, it deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. And it escapes for 4 mana, which when you exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. Cast from your graveyard for 4 mana and exiling 5 other cards, which is real good. It's really good. This card you might want to Wish for or bring in against decks that are decent against answering your primary game plan you don't think you can be fast with, but the game will go kind of long. So like Boros Energy, Dimir Murktide, Orza Midrange, things like that. But that is Ruby Storm in Modern. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.